darkest nights, from the sunny
Welcome everyone to the AHNC Daily News Rodeo, or is it the Daily AHNC News Rodeo? I can never remember. My name is Hat, and I welcome you to another show. Lots to do today. The beginning is going to be a little shorter than the after show. The news just piled up into the second category more than the first. So if you're watching on YouTube and D-Live, you're going to get shortchanged a little bit. But if you come to Trovo, just type in trovo.live/AHNC_hat. That will be on the split card between shows. You'll be able to come directly to Trovo and watch the rest of the show. By the way, some news. It looks like D-Live has turned off the X tag on the channel, so now people will be able to find it freely. I haven't seen anything about monetization yet, though. David Von Kettering said in the D-Live chat that he has set his lemons towards me, but I don't know if he can do that just yet. I haven't seen any notification. But enough of that. Now, the first part of the show, we've got some stuff on the economy. It may be we may have a great rebound, as predicted by the former president some months ago, and a little bit about the Mumford and Sons lead guitarist and banjo player bowing to the woke mob and the backlash he's gotten not only from his original tweet, but from his apology tweet. We'll see how that goes. And then also some state news regarding what's been happening in places like Philadelphia and Arkansas. Plus, is China preparing for war? We'll get to that at the end of the beginning of the show. So let's get on with it with our first Babylon Bee bookend, the one on the left. This is from their U.S. section. CDC recommends double caging children at border for extra safety. And here we have a nice young Latinx behind wire cage. But let's see what it says. Dateline, Atlanta, Georgia. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been studying the situation at the southern border and has now issued new recommendations, double caging for migrant children. That's when a child is placed inside a cage and then that cage is put inside of a second, larger cage. According to our studies, said CDC researcher Edmund Fisher, double caging increases the effectiveness of child detention by at least 25%. That's too large a factor to ignore. The CDC also reiterated that the caging of children should be done both indoors and outside with proper distancing between the cages. Progressive groups who had reacted with alarm to children being caged under the Trump administration also pushed back against this CDC recommendation. Quote, "What are we, Nazi Germany?" said left-wing activist Sean Craig. "Are we really so stingy that we are only giving children 2 cages? It seems like 3 cages would work even better and make sure those kids could never escape." Close quote. Border Patrol, though, is not so convinced. Quoting Border Patrol agent Ann Wheeler, "We don't have a lot of extra cages for this. Where are we supposed to get all these cages?" Close quote. They were assured, though, by the Biden administration that nearly half the funds from the $1.9 trillion stimulus package that no one read will go towards purchasing more cages. So good news for those 3,000 plus children who are currently being held at the border. Extra cages are on their way. Thank you, Babylon Bee. And again, we'll have more border news in the after show. I'd like to welcome Ken Lee to the chat in YouTube. Thanks for being here. Yes, you are next. And hopefully we'll be able to keep you entertained for the next few minutes. Thank you for being here, of course. All right, the Dow. The Dow just closed, and it was a record high today. The Dow closed at just under 32,300. It was an almost 1.5% gain today. And the S&P 500 was up a fraction. The NASDAQ actually dropped a bit, almost $5 a share, but not quite. And gold was up a little bit. Oil also went up. It is now at $64.78 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate Sweet Crude. That's a 1.2% gain over the previous close. So one of the reasons the market did so well is the House passed the quote-unquote COVID relief bill. We've talked about that at length. There is about 8 or 9% of it actually devoted to the virus. The rest of it is Democrat giveaways. But who am I to judge? After all, I think the National Humanity for the Arts really deserved that couple $100 million, as did the National Endowment. Let's see, there were 2 of them. National Endowment for the Arts, and then there's one other one that's almost exactly the same. They're so similar I can never keep them apart. I think it's National Endowment for the Arts and Entertainment, actually. I think those are the 2 separate ones. Both of those received a couple $100 million. And of course, school districts around the country are going to get tens of billions of dollars on top of the $500 million that is yet to be spent on quote-unquote upgrading schools so they could be opened, even though almost half the country's schools are already opened and teaching 5 days a week. But, you know, we need those new HVAC systems that were just fine during the flu season, which kills more kids than COVID. But, you know, now we need those extra HEPA filters for reasons. And I'm going to get into the LA teachers, quote-unquote, deal reopening schools in a little bit. Now, we've been hearing ever since the Trump administration that this year was going to have explosive growth. President Trump said that often, especially on the campaign trail, and turns out he was right. I've got an article here from the Epoch Times by Tom Ozimek. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, also known as the OECD, in its interim March report, quote, the significant fiscal stimulus along with faster vaccination could boost U.S. GDP growth by over 3 percentage points this year, with welcome demand spillovers in key trading partners. So that raises the economic output this year to 6.5%. Now, the organization does caution that sizable risks remain, chiefly slow progress in vaccine rollout and the emergence of new vaccine-resistant mutations of the virus. If these risks materialize, the OECD predicts weaker recovery, larger job losses, and more business failures. Also, Lawrence Boone, the OECD's chief economist, said stimulus without vaccinations won't be as effective because consumers won't go out doing normal things. It's the combination of health and fiscal policy that matters. Now, of course, you may have heard the CDC has since said, just within the last couple days, that if you've been fully vaccinated, you are allowed to gather indoors with other vaccinated people. However, in any other circumstance, you're supposed to socially distance and wear a mask, which again begs the question, then why get the vaccine? Unless you have a party where everyone proves they've been vaccinated, then you can't do it without masks and social distancing, which is the same thing as not being vaccinated. Now, I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. Don't get me wrong. That is everyone's choice. I am personally leaning towards the Johnson & Johnson jab, and I'll have a story about that why in just a little bit. But that is an important consideration for you to make, and I would not advise you either way or the other. That is your choice. And I don't have anything bad to say about the vaccines either. That's not my job. I am saying, however, that without actual relaxation of social distancing and mask wearing for vaccinated people, there's no, according to the CDC, there's no real reason to get vaccinated. Again, I disagree with that, personally. But that's the mixed signals we're getting from the CDC. So, January 6th won't go away. We just found out that the Pentagon has extended deployment of nearly 2,300 National Guard troops in the D.C. Capitol complex through May 23rd. So that's basically a 2-month extension from their original duty assignment. 2 months. Now, according to quote-unquote intel people and briefings to Congress critters, there is still a lot of chatter from, quote, QAnon-linked groups about possible attacks. Now, they're not giving us any details, and I don't know what a QAnon-linked group exactly is. I don't know what a QAnon group is, for that matter. I've never been near the thing. I can't even tell you the address of any of their chat rooms or discords. I don't know any of it. But this is the thing that has got the DC worried. Also, in this article, it talks about how these troops are also there to help fill the gaps with the Capitol Police. And according to a Pentagon spokesman, Jonathan Kirby, he said that the extension is partly linked to assessment of specific threats in D.C., but also to help fill gaps in the capabilities of the Capitol Police. Kirby said, "It's not just about threat assessment, it's about assisting and supporting capabilities that the Capitol Police may now lack and may need to look at improving on their own, in their own sense." And I think that, again, without speaking to the Secretary's decision here, I think that's largely what was behind the extension request. Now, they're not speculating at all as to whether or not the troops will continue on beyond May 23rd. According to the spokesman, he said, "I don't think anybody can answer that question right now. Right now, we're really dealing with a specific request for assistance for an additional couple of months extension at a reduced number from what we're seeing now. I'm in no position to speculate beyond that." So we have no idea. And I would like to thank David Von Kittering for proving that the DLive channel has been remonetized. My first batch of lemons in months. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, folks, DLive, no more X-Tag. Now it has monetization, but I need to watch the political content still. Until they give me guidance on the mature audience only tag, I don't know how political content will fall under the new terms of service. So DLive will still be being cut off before we switch to the after show. But again, it is live, and we do have monetization again. So if you're more comfortable giving lemons than you are casting spells or sending super chats, that would be Trovo and YouTube respectively, then feel free to jump to DLive. That channel is dlive.tv /AHNC. All hat, no cattle. dlive.tv /AHNC. Sign up if you care. Thank you, Ken. Good to see you too. All right, continuing on. Cuomo. Again, the lead story with Cuomo is the killing fields, the Cuomo killing fields. As we talked about at least a month ago, the main New York State public watchdog group, whose name I always forget, and I apologize, but they are the ones who have led the way with the Freedom of Information Act requests for state records regarding nursing home deaths. And they have projected, according to their last statistics, that Cuomo's directive for nursing homes and long-term care facilities to take in COVID-positive patients, period, no excuse, period, probably killed an extra 1,000 people. Now, that's just nursing homes and long-term care facilities. We talked just yesterday about the order that also came out last year regarding sending COVID-positive patients to disability development centers. So people with mental disabilities and physical disabilities who are in these developmental centers, they were also subjected to COVID-positive patients. And as we talked about yesterday, they had infection rates that were 4 times higher than any of the other facilities in the state. And there were some 500 odd deaths in those facilities from COVID. So we haven't seen any of the shakedown on that yet. But in the meantime, a 6th woman has come out and accused Cuomo of sexual harassment. This time it was touching her without her consent. This supposedly happened last year at the governor's mansion. According to the story, Cuomo called her into the governor's office for a business meeting, and he touched her inappropriately. We haven't gotten a lot more detail from that. We don't know the name of the woman. And the governor's office did not address the allegation specifically. This is an article, by the way, from the Daily Wire by Joseph Curl. But the governor's office stated, all allegations that we learn of directly or indirectly are going promptly to the investigators appointed by the Attorney General. Cuomo on Tuesday said in a conference call that if he did touch women, it was, quote, not inappropriate. He said, first, I'm not aware of any other claim. As I said last week, this is very simple. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never made any inappropriate advances. No one ever told me at the time that I made them feel uncomfortable. Obviously, there are people who said after the fact they felt uncomfortable. It's a story and he's sticking to it, folks. I wasn't there. I can't confirm or deny any of these accounts. We do know, though, from physical evidence, i.e. a photo, and contemporaneous records that Cuomo did put his hand on the bare back of a woman he did not know at a wedding, put both of his hands on either side of her face, and then moved in towards her after saying, "How about a kiss?" And moved in for a kiss, and she had to duck out of the way before he made contact. We do know that happened. The rest of these are he said, she said. We'll have to see. Again, there's a independent investigation going on in New York right now. A team of investigators appointed by Attorney General Letitia James. Side note, Letitia James is most likely eyeing a run for the governor at some point in her career. And so having Cuomo's scalp on her belt would not hurt her chances. I read that, David, but I can't read it aloud. Just Bubble Freedom says, are y'all ever going back to D-Live? I can't go back fully. I'm going to have to keep doing the after show until D-Live gives me guidance on their new mature content rate. Darn it. Their mature content tag versus the X tag. Because as the terms of service stand right now, political content gets you put under the X tag, period. I asked them about the mature content tag, and they said they haven't developed the rules for it yet, so they can't give me any guidance. As soon as I know that I can do full shows on D-Live, I will only cut out YouTube from now on. Because YouTube is still very censorious about certain things. I'm sorry, I'm looking at your chat instead of the camera. I apologize. For now, we're still going to do everything on Trovo and then the first half of the show on D-Live and YouTube. And once I hear more from D-Live, I'll be able to give you more information. But that's where things stand right now. Okay, continuing. Thank you for the question. All right, cancel culture. It keeps on rolling along. Folks, this country is in a death spiral. and people won't stand up. I highly suggest you watch Dan Bongino's show from earlier today. Bongino has always had this great analogy about how it's not the first person who stands up and dances, as he puts it, that deserves attention. It's the second person who stands up and backs up the first person. That's where it becomes a movement. And today he played a great video of a music festival from some years ago, I think it was 2009, where he had a bunch of people sitting on a lawn listening to music. And there was a fence in front of them. And this one guy, no shirt, jumps up and stands a few feet away from the fence and just starts kind of waving his hands and shaking his hips, doing a kind of a funky little white guy dance. And people are kind of laughing at him because he looked silly. Yeah, he did look a little silly. But next thing you know, another guy comes up and joins him. And then about a minute later, there had to have been 40 or 50 people dancing on that spot. And the crowd started cheering. And again, that's Dan Bongino, who played that video and who has made this analogy. It's not me. I'm just cribbing off of him. But I think it's perfectly cogent and on point as to what's going on right now. And so, for example, we've got the Mumford & Sons lead guitarist and banjo player. Now, I'm a big Mumford & Sons fan. I've watched their Red Rock concert video multiple times. I was very, very happy with their music. Their first 2 or 3 albums I couldn't get enough of. And I'd like to thank Wheatmouth817 for the generosity on D-Live. Thank you very much. So, unfortunately, he's a great string instrument player, but he's got a lousy head on his shoulders when it comes to standing up for himself. So here's what happened. He read Andy Ngo's book, which is called Unmasked, and it's all about Antifa. You'll remember that Andy Ngo, who now works for, he was working for Willamette Weekly, and now I think he's become a freelancer. He's out of the country right now due to death threats. But Andy Ngo wrote a great book on Antifa. He's been covering them for years. He used to live in Portland, so right there at the hot spot of Antifa. Rose City Antifa is basically the number one progenitor on the West Coast. And Andy has been attacked by them. He was put in the hospital with a brain bleed 2 years ago. There's video of him being assaulted, and the cops did nothing. Then he went to the cops and asked them for assistance, and they told him to go away. No one has ever been arrested in that assault. And he's been assaulted multiple other times, and it's all on camera, and none of those people have ever been have been arrested. And he's been doxxed and given death threats on Twitter all the time. None of those accounts have been taken down, at least not recently. And none of those tweets have been deleted. I'd like to welcome SRS4859 to the YouTube chat. He says, Andy Ngo has taken such flack for exposing Antifa and BLM on the streets. Yes, he has. So I've got Andy's book. I have not had any time to read lately. All I do is watch and listen to news all day, except for the few hours that I play Witcher. By the way, I'm playing the first Witcher, and I love it. The mechanics are different, and of course the graphics are, a good 12 years old, but still, it's a really cool game. And I'm learning a lot about what I didn't know while playing the third one, so there's a lot of backstory that I'm picking up. And I'll be starting the gaming streams again starting tomorrow morning, although tomorrow mornings will be a little briefer than normal because I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning in Lake Forest, about an hour south of here. And I have to get ready for it. But I'll start the streams again, probably around 7:30 Central, somewhere in there. But I'll be playing the original Witcher for now, not Witcher 3. I've got all 3 of them now, so I'm going to be playing them in sequence. So anyway, Andy Ngo wrote this great book. I've heard nothing but great things about it. And this band member from Mumford & Sons, Winston Marshall, Winston, posted a tweet praising the book. Here's what he tweeted. Finally had the time to read your important book. You're a brave man. That's the tweet. Okay? Marshall got destroyed by woke Twitter. Absolutely destroyed. And what, of course, happens on woke Twitter when you're a celebrity? Your agent calls you and says you have to apologize immediately or you're out of the band. So Winston Marshall had 2 choices. He could tell his agent to F off and count on his band members for support, or he could bow to the mob and become another scraping, worm-bellied sycophant. And Marshall chose the latter. So Marshall tweeted the following. Over the past few days, I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorsed. I have offended not only a lot of people I don't know, but also those closest to me, including my bandmates, and for that I am truly sorry. As a result of my actions, I am taking time away from the band to examine my blind spots. For now, please know that I realize how my endorsements have the potential to be viewed as approvals of hateful, divisive behavior. I apologize, as this was not at all my intention. So, praising a book about a violent anarchist group that seeks to destroy America from the top down, one of whose favorite slogans is, "Liberals get the bullet too." I've seen that spray painted on a number of walls from photos that Andy knows taken. Let me repeat that. Antifa's slogan, "Liberals get the bullet too." And woke Twitter descends upon Winston Marshall for daring praising a book that exposes these people for who they really are. Let's not forget that Antifa temporarily blinded 4 federal agents in Portland last year with commercial-grade lasers. Almost permanently scarred their retinas, leaving them partially, if not totally, blinded for life. They tried to burn down a federal courthouse by throwing an accelerant into the main floor and then sending explosives, including commercial-grade fireworks, in a broken window after that to try to set the accelerant alight while people were inside. They have also tried to burn down police stations in Portland by blocking the doors, filling the locks with superglue and or concrete, and then trying to set the building ablaze with people inside. And Winston Marshall says that a book exposing those people caused pain. Oh, I'm sorry, Winston. Did the big bad Andy No hurt the poor widow Antifa? Screw you, Winston Marshall. Screw you, and screw Mumford and Sons. I'm done listening to you. Period. If I find your CDs, I'm going to set them on fire, and I'll send you the ashes. So I'm not the only one who had this opinion of Winston after this bowing and scraping. Molly Hemingway tweeted, "I know it is difficult to be courageous instead of cowardly, but how disappointing to see you cave to these disgusting bullies." Molly Hemingway. The best tweet, though, was Tim Pool. Tim Pool has some of the best Twitter game in the country. He only trolls, and but when he does, it's excitably good. And this is his tweet regarding this. Winston did this on purpose to give Andy no proof of what he was saying in his book about Antifa. It's a far-right conspiracy meant to make you fear innocent masked activists who seek peace through violence. Thank you, Tim Pool. By the way, Tim Pool has a podcast every night, starting, I believe, at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. I know that's in the middle of Lizard Bite show, so I'm not telling you to watch Tim's show live, but it does repeat on his webpage, timpool.com, and it's also usually on YouTube, so I highly recommend you watch it after you're done with Lizard Bites. It's a great show. It's a really great show. I watch it, if not that night, I watch it every morning. And JF, thank you so much for the diamond. Thank you so much. I appreciate that immensely. It's nice to have DLive back. It really is. I just wish I knew more about how much I could use it. All right, so enough about wrong buttons. Excuse me just a second. Enough about Winston Marshall. Okay, the opposite of Winston Marshall is Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell, according to his numbers, has lost $65 million in sales this year because of the 20 retailers, both online and box stores, that have canceled his products. Because Mike Lindell had the temerity to say that maybe the election didn't go the way we were told it did by everybody else. Now, of course, I can't say my opinion on that because YouTube would shut down the channel and give me a strike. But the election was totally fair, and there were no incidents of widespread fraud. We all know that. Hong Kong. Well, Mike Lindell was also banned from Twitter and Facebook and pretty much every other social media platform that has that type of insane fascist ideology. Well, Mike Lindell said, screw you guys, I'm going to build my own social media platform. So Mike announced this on Charlie Kirk's podcast last week, quoting Mike. Every single influencer person on the planet can come there. You're going to have a platform to speak out. We're launching this big platform so all the voices of our country can come back and start telling it like it is. Continuing. You will not need YouTube. You won't need these places. It will be everything. Pardon me. It will be everywhere. Everything can be told because we've got to get our voices back. People will be able to talk and not walk on eggshells. Okay, now Mike says that so far, it looks like it'll be about 4 to 5 weeks before this springs up. Now, I think it's great news. And with this new OBS plugin that allows me to live stream to any outfit that has live streaming capability, hopefully Mike will have that on his platform and we'll be able to add that to our show. Because I promise you, when that site goes up, I'm going to be right in line signing up. Even if it's only a social media platform like Parler or Gab, which I never use, but I do have accounts there, I'll be happy to sign up with Mike's as well. The one alternative social media site I haven't signed up with yet is Dave. Shoot, my brain, you guys. You'll have to see me give me just a second. Used to work for the Young Turks. Has his own podcast now. Appears on Ben Shapiro all the time. And on Fox News. Shoot. I can't remember his name. Dave Rubin. Thank you, Medulla Oblongata. Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin has a platform called Locals. And it's supposed to be really good. As I understand it, it's more of a subscription-based idea where if people want to go to your channel, they have to subscribe to it. And I believe there's a payment option involved in that. So you can be much more select as to who goes to your channel. But I just haven't been there, so I don't know even if they have streaming services on. I don't think they do, but I just haven't looked. But he talks about it on his show all the time. And the people who do come to his show, who are on it, praise it. They say they love the platform and they love the subscription model. So we'll have to look into that. But so Mike's going up against Parler and Gab. But look at it this way. It's not like he's competing with them for eyeballs. He's competing with big tech is what he's doing. There are plenty of people out there who would be more than happy to use Gab, Parler, Locals, Trovo, whatever. I mean, I'm on YouTube right now, but they're not going to get the whole show. Thank you, Ken Lee, Dave Rubin. I just looked at that when you tweeted that, so thank you. But YouTube chat's pretty busy today. Nice to see you guys. But so Mike Lindell's going to be competing with big tech. There's a lot of room out there for free speech platforms, and I think Mike's going to do really well. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, if I had anything I needed to advertise, I would do it. But if I don't even have merch, so there's nothing for me to put out there except this brand. And if there's a pay service on Mike's outfit like there is on mine's, where you can amplify your posts with certain monetization, fine, Mike, you got my money. You got my money. So, God bless you, Mike. Let's see what happens. Excuse me. So, right now the big news in the cyber wars is China's hack of the Microsoft Exchange servers. And you probably know by now, especially if you've been listening to the show here, that the hack has mainly affected cloud servers. Local servers, pardon me. If your stuff's on the cloud, it's safe. But this hack has gone into the local servers and is stripping all the data from the Exchange system, including the emails. And they haven't begun to determine how many thousands of people have been affected by that so far, but it is worldwide. But right now, the Biden administration is talking about Russia because of the SolarWinds hack. You remember SolarWinds got into a bunch of platforms, including a number of government agencies, including the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, and the State Department. And it's also the hack is also suspected to have breached the National Nuclear Security Administration, and that's the agency that manages our stockpile of nuclear weapons. Now, you remember President Trump floated the idea that perhaps it was China behind solar winds, but the Biden administration is dead set on reacting to it by going after Russia. And they are saying that they're going after, let me find it here, cyber actions on Russian networks intended to send a message to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russian military and intelligence, but it will not hit the wider Russian public. And that's according to the New York Times from an article on Sunday. Jake Sullivan, President Joe Biden's national security advisor, said the U.S. may use a combination of sanctions and private actions to force a, quote, broad strategic discussion with the Russians. So that's that. But here's something else from Sullivan. Over the past 4 years, following the concerns of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections, which we all know didn't happen, Sullivan has argued that the traditional U.S. response to cyber attacks of imposing new sanctions is not a sufficient retaliation against Russia or China to get them to stop their hacking campaigns and to come to the negotiating table. So cyber warfare is breaking out, folks. So I'll tell you right now, if you don't have a VPN, get one. There are a lot of options out there. I use ExpressVPN. This is not a paid endorsement. I have zero advertisers on this show. Everything I tell you is stuff that I use personally. And I love ExpressVPN. They just came out with a brand new system called Lightway, which is really fast, really the whole thing is effortless to set up. And with a single subscription, you can cover 5 platforms with it. I've got it on everything here. Everything you see, everything around me right now has ExpressVPN on it. My computer, my iPad, my phone, it all has ExpressVPN on it. And also, I highly recommend you no longer use quote-unquote free data services like Gmail or Google Docs, because they read everything. I'm slowly transitioning to Proton Mail. That's my new mail system, which I also highly encourage. It's encrypted. Let me say that again. It's encrypted, so they can't hack into it the way China did to the exchange system. These things do cost money, but so do locks on your doors. So do good windows. So think about it. My personal opinion. Think about it. Michael Scriven says in the YouTube chat, they wanted war with Russia badly in 2016. Insane fools. I'm going to get to more of that in just a second, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up. Did I just see DL Freight Watcher in the chat on Trovo? Wild Saffron, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Uncle Bobbity, of course. I just saw a reference to DI Freight Watcher. I don't, or DL. I always do that wrong. Oh, okay, I got you. All right, Wild Saffron is DL Freight Watcher. Excellent. Nice to see you, my dear. It's been a long time. All right, continuing on. Oops, I clicked on that by mistake. Go away. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, the election. Again, there was no widespread voter fraud. Although there have been a lot of arrests and indictments for voter fraud over the last few months. But again, there was no widespread voter fraud. Let's just make that perfectly clear. Certainly not enough to overturn the election. But there was a lot of voter fraud. Just saying. And here's a story in that regard. The Chicago DuPage County DA's office, has indicted 5 people for voter fraud. This is coming from the November 3rd election. These charges stem from investigations into 32 cases of alleged election fraud, but several of these remain under investigation, but most of those have been closed without investigation. Those charged include Colleen A. Kirchhoff of Naperville, Thomas E. Wojciechowski, I'm showing off my ability to pronounce Polish names. Wojciechowski of Carroll Stream and Adam P. Butler, address unknown. Two others, Derek Kent and Amy Kent of Austin, Texas, were also charged, and the charges range from forgery and perjury in election code. Kirchhoff, for instance, was charged with forgery and perjury after she allegedly attempted to cast a ballot for someone else. But a judge on Tuesday signed arrest warrants for the 5 suspects, and each person's bail was set for $1,000. Last week, the mayor pro tem of a Northern California city resigned from office after pleading guilty to election fraud charges. Crescent City Mayor pro tem Alex Campbell entered the plea to making a false declaration of candidacy in Del Norte County Superior Court. Separately, in Aberdeen, Mississippi, a judge ordered a new runoff election for a city alderman seat after more than 3/4 of absentee ballots cast in the June 2020 Democratic runoff election were found to be invalid, while a notary involved in the election was arrested. You remember I covered that story when it first came out. But again, not enough voter fraud to overturn the election. Just in the case of Mississippi, voter fraud that overturned an election. Just saying. Now, another problem states have had is with DAs backed by a certain international far-left investor whose name I can't say on YouTube or they'll strike me. And I would specifically be charged with anti-Semitism for casting aspersions on someone who is not an observant Jew and who helped the Nazis during World War II against other Jews. But again, he's a great Jew, and I can't say anything about him because that would be anti-Semitic. But anyway, this guy put millions and millions of dollars into local district attorney office candidacies in order to get far-left DAs elected, and it worked. It worked in Oakland, in LA, in Philadelphia, and in New York City, and in Chicago. One of the biggest one in the news, though, has been Philadelphia's DA. He completely, quote-unquote, liberalized the justice system in Philadelphia, which, surprisingly enough, increased crime by several factors. But who are we to judge such great and insightful policies? Well, not only has he made it easier to commit a crime and stay on the streets in Philadelphia, but he's also made it easier for you to commit a crime and stay in the country if you're an illegal who committed a crime. And this guy's name is Larry Krasner. I'm sure you've heard of it. And Larry created something called let me see if I can find it here, the Immigration Council in 2017. He hired a former immigration attorney named Caleb Arnold to head that. And Krasner said that the role of the council was to help non-citizens avoid the, quote, immigration consequences, close quote, of some crimes. Well, of course, the only immigration consequence you can have from committing a crime when you're an illegal is to be deported. What else could happen to you? You couldn't be made more of an illegal. So Krasner basically created an office to help illegal aliens who break the law avoid deportation. Now, it wasn't enough that his office consistently denied ICE detainers and allowed multiple convicted felons back on the street who should have been deported. But there's a sanctuary city policy, so heaven forbid ICE do its job. And of course, we also found out this week that ICE has been basically neutered by the 46 asterisk administration. So deportations are basically a thing of the past. But who are we to judge? Oh, by the way, yeah, Operation Talon, the sex ring, the illegal alien sex ring investigation, that was shut down too. But again, who are we to judge? Ken Lee says in the YouTube chat, there is no evidence of widespread snowfall. I agree with you completely, because it's raining here off and on until the snow is melting. Even though we had a lot of snow this winter, there's not going to be any evidence of it soon. So what can you do? But so Krasner said that the Immigration Council would work with prosecutors pursuing charges that are, quote, not that serious. Okay, so not that serious. So the guy in charge of it has consulted on dozens of cases involving such crimes as attempted murder, rape, and rape of a child. And that's according to a list of charges obtained by the Immigration Reform Law Institute. And that was also viewed by that data was also viewed by the Daily Wire, and I'm reading the story from their platform. It was written by Tim Pierce. Forgive me for not saying that earlier, Tim. The list of charges obtained by this group shows Arnold has consulted on cases involving such charges as rape, murder, and rape of a child. It is not known whether Arnold recommended a plea agreement or a change in charges as a result of those consultations. From its creation in January 2018 to November 2020, the Immigration Counsel's office was paid roughly $234,000 in taxpayer funds. And again, Krasner was elected to office in 2017 with $1.7 million worth of support from the Philadelphia Justice and Public Safety Group, a group backed by the progressive financier whose name I cannot mention, but it rhymes with Borge Oboboros. So, that's... But who are we to judge, right? Now, another state that's doing things a little differently is Arkansas. And yesterday, the Arkansas governor, Asa Hutchinson, signed into law a legislation banning nearly all abortions in the state. And this is an article from the New York Post by Andrew Batafarano. Hope I didn't screw that up too much, Andrew. The Republican governor had expressed reservations about the bill, which only allows the procedure to save the life of the mother and does not provide exceptions for those impregnated in an act of rape or incest. Arkansas is one of at least 14 states where legislatures have proposed outright abortion bans this year. Now, again, Hutchinson had reservations about this. This bill is not only designed to end abortion, except in cases of the life of the mother in Arkansas, but it's also designed to trigger a review of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. Now, you remember the hearings for the justices appointed by President Trump during his term. The big sounding bell for all of them was whether or not they would overturn Roe v. Wade. President Trump promised that there was no litmus test, when it came to appointing justices. And there's certainly no record of that. But that was the Democrats' hue and cry that they were going to vote to overturn Roe. Now, Hutchinson said that he signed the bill because of its, quote, overwhelming legislative support and my sincere and long-held pro-life convictions. And that's, again, quoting the governor. But Hutchinson has voiced concerns that this bill directly challenges Roe and about the lack of rape and incest exceptions. He repeated those concerns as he announced his decision. And as the legislature considered the measure, Hutchinson shared with lawmakers a letter written by an attorney for abortion opponents' National Right to Life that said the chances of the bill leading to Roe being overturned were, quote, very small and remote, close quote. National Right to Life didn't take a position on the bill, though. Its Arkansas affiliate supported the ban. So it may be a tripwire, but it may not be the one that overturns Roe. We'll have to see. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how this case would be argued, so I can't give any guidance as to how I would see this turning out. You guys all know my feelings about abortion. The fact that I'm a paying member to a group that was kicked off of YouTube and lost 300,000 subscribers unceremoniously. Called LifeSite, LIFESITE. I support them, but if you care to as well, please do so. They have a lot of great newsletters. You can sign up for one, a couple, or all, or really enjoy their stuff. Again, that's lifesite.com. But so we'll see what happens about this one. Okay, so finally, for the first block, we've got an article on China and it's ramping up its military. I had this article, or at least a companion article, queued up yesterday, but I ran out of time. And China is really, really, really kicking its military into high gear. Now, where is all this money coming from? From us. All that money's coming from us. And I'd like to welcome Dr. Evils to the D-Live chat. Nice to see you again. It's been a long time. Very nice to see you. And Laura, by the way, hello to you as well. I didn't get a chance to say a hello to you earlier. Nice to see you. So China is going to spend about another, let me see, I've got it here, $212 billion. That's a 6.8% increase over last year. And again, all that money's coming from us. We are supporting China's military. Now, the National Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of National Defense spokesperson Wu Quan said in an interview with Chinese media on Sunday that the hike in expenditures is necessary for both, quote, self-defense and protecting world peace. And he also said that this was beyond reproach. Now, here's the thing. Taiwan. We all know that China tried to start a border war with India last year, and it failed miserably. They got their butts kicked. In fact, it broke down into hand-to-hand combat. Live fire was prohibited on both sides, so they used rocks and sticks and fists to kill each other, and China took the worst of it. Now, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy that anyone ever dies. But India successfully defended its border against Chinese incursion. But China has been setting its sights on Taiwan ever since Taiwan became a nominally independent state back some 5 decades ago. You remember that it was illegal to even say the Republic of China or Taiwan. We called it Formosa for years because Taiwan was prohibited by the Communist Chinese Party. And finally, we've started bucking up and taking care of them. 46 Asterisk has pledged his support to Taiwan. But here's the thing. This is from yesterday's article. Xi Jinping, the current premier, he's up for renewal in just a couple of years. And he has changed the rules to where he can stay in for life if he keeps being voted in. He's not El Jefe forever. He just can be El Jefe forever. And he has 2 factions warring against him. It is not all peaches and cream in the Chinese Communist Party, nor is it ever in any party. Communist, Marxist, capitalist, it's never all peaches and cream. There's always infighting. And Xi sees his way out as by knocking Taiwan off its independence perch and completely subjugating it to the Chinese mainland, just like they have Hong Kong and Shanghai. Now, they would have to invade. China has the equipment. China has the personnel. They could successfully invade Taiwan. The distance between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan is not very large. Just a few, I think maybe 30 or 40 miles. But Taiwan forms part of an archipelago with Japan. So Japan's national interests are very much tied to Taiwan's, as is everyone else in the South China Sea, like Vietnam and Brunei, countries that need the South China Sea for their economies, desperately. Hell, about 70 or 80% of the world's goods, including oil, go through the South China Sea at one time every year. And China has claimed ownership of virtually all of it. And they have been violating Taiwan's ADIZ, its Air Defense Identification Zone, pretty much continuously since January, including one day sending at least 5 fighters and a handful of bombers into the ADIZ. The Taiwanese Air Force was scrambling daily to intercept these things, putting a great strain on a very small Air Force. So here's the thing. If Xi can invade Taiwan and take it over within a week, he's probably very, very heavily cemented in his position. But if he doesn't, hang Taiwan out to dry. Or if he tries to, and it takes longer than expected, then his head's on the chopping block. And we all know what happens to former leaders in communist countries. They are erased, if not jailed, tried, and executed. It's the way the system works. Kind of the way the Democrats have been treating us Republicans lately. So that's what's going on right now with China. They are itching for a fight, to quote Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers, from the great NPR show Car Talk. And we have reached the end of the broadcast day for YouTube and DLive. I'm going to kick in to the heavy-duty section now. That is known as the after show on Trovo. And again, if you want to go there, I'm going to put the address up right here on the split screen. And that is trovo.live/AHNC_hat. Do not type in www. It will not take you there. Just type in exactly as it shows there on the screen, and boom, you're on the Trovo channel, and you'll get the whole show. And again, as I said previously, once I find out from DLive how it's going to work regarding the classification of the channel, whether or not I'll be able to do political content under the mature audience tag, and therefore I can do the show on both channels and only cut off YouTube, for now we don't know. But I have at least been remonetized on DLive, and the X tag has been taken off, so people can come in and see it like they used to. And again, Dr. Evils, thank you so much for finding us. It's nice to see you again. So goodbye to YouTube and DLive. Again, trovo.live/AHNC_hat. Bye, all. See you tomorrow, 4 p.m.